The realm. Do you know what the realm is? It's the 1,000 blades of Aegon's enemies. A story we agreed to tell each other over and over till we forget that it's a lie.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back for another Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon update video. Alright my friends, in this video, I want to show you something that was said during a recent interview. I myself thought it was interesting, but dare I say it might even be hopeful for those of you who are still on the fence about House of the Dragon, the HBO successor show that will be based on George R.R. Martin's Fire and Blood. Now, as you all know, ever since Game of Thrones ended, millions of fans have said they are done with not only the main show, but any other show set in the A Song of Ice and Fire universe that follows after. A lot of them still say, now that they know how Game of Thrones ends, they have no interest in watching anything that shows them how they got there, because at the end of the day, it will all lead to the same thing. While I certainly understand this, I do not agree with it whatsoever. It's no secret, there were a lot of things I did not like about the final season of Game of Thrones, but I won't let that affect me when watching House of the Dragon. One of the many good things about this new series is it already has an ending. The creators of this show already know what direction it's heading in before they even make their first episode. This is a luxury the Game of Thrones writers Dan and Dave did not have. They basically had to make things up as they went along. This is a major issue House of the Dragon should be able to avoid. Now, another good thing is, Dan and Dave no longer work for HBO. They're now over at Netflix, so we don't have to worry about them dismantling a good thing. Dan and Dave also had zero experience in working for television. I mean, hell, even HBO didn't have any experience when it came to creating these massive fantasy shows, but now they do. Even if you hated Game of Thrones, you cannot deny its success, impact, or even influence on other shows. HBO now has a giant notch on their belt, and we can only hope they use all of this new experience moving forward. I actually think they already have, based on some of the choices they've made. Another thing that has me very excited about House of the Dragon is who HBO has brought back from Game of Thrones. They have brought back their incredible composer and best director. So if you're like me, and you did love the way Game of Thrones looked and sounded, you will be very happy to know House of the Dragon should have a very similar sound, look, and feel to the show. It's almost like HBO got rid of the worst things about Game of Thrones like Dan and Dave, and kept their best things from Game of Thrones like Miguel Sapochnik and Ramin Djawadi. I'm assuming most of you have already seen some of the costumes as well. HBO has released a handful of official images that show some of their main actors and character. Now, I don't know about you, but I think they look amazing. Obviously, I'm no costume designer or fashion expert, but I love the way each of these characters look. I know some of you do have some concerns about the casting choices they've made so far, but I have faith in HBO when it comes to this specifically. At first glance, you might think, oh, this actor doesn't look right, or this actress's age isn't right for this character, and so on and so forth. However, HBO did the same thing with Game of Thrones. A lot of the characters from Game of Thrones did not look like they would have in the books. A lot of the actors in Game of Thrones were different ages than their characters from the books, yet HBO still did an amazing job. I think they do an amazing job in all of their shows, like Game of Thrones, The Wire, The Sopranos, Deadwood, Oz, The Band of Brothers, and so many others. Who HBO hires as their actors and actresses is the least of my concerns because, like I said before, I have faith in them when it comes to this. Just wait until you actually see them during their scenes. Now let's think about what we know so far. House of the Dragon will be based on the Dance of Dragons. This is when House Targaryen fought and killed each other over the Iron Throne while on the backs of their dragons. So we already know they are adapting this show from one of George R.R. Martin's greatest stories set within A Song of Ice and Fire. There will be more than enough drama for this show, and there will be more than enough awesome and interesting characters for this show as well. That's one thing we do not have to worry about. We also know George R.R. Martin is a co-creator of the show, so he will be helping them along the way. Now, how much will he actually help them? I don't know. We can only hope he will guide them when needed. Like I said before, we also know HBO has brought back Miguel Sapochnik, the man responsible for directing some of Game of Thrones' greatest episodes, as well as Ramin Djawadi, the man responsible for making some of the greatest soundtracks in television history. So, we have an amazing story that will look and sound and feel very similar to Game of Thrones, which is what we love, at least when it was good. Now we just have to wonder if they will find the right actors to help bring this amazing story to life. I think they will, based on how well they have always done on all of their other shows, including Game of Thrones. Now I want to get to the main reason why I made this video. There's one other ingredient HBO will need to ensure House of the Dragon is a success. It's arguably the most important aspect of all, and that is the writing. As we have seen with Game of Thrones, it doesn't matter how good everything else is if the writing sucks. Game of Thrones was always setting a new example for their acting, their score, their costumes, their set design, their special effects, and so much more. However, when their writing failed, so did the show as a whole. This obviously has a lot of fans worried about how the writing will be handled moving forward with their other shows. Well, like I said before, the one good thing we don't have to worry about is an ending. If you've read the books, you already know the Dance of Dragons has an incredible ending, as well as a lot of other amazing major events that surround it. However, there are a lot of big gaps in the story. Unfortunately, George has only written the broad strokes for these events. He hasn't written thousands and thousands of words of dialogue for all these characters, so this is something House of the Dragon's writers will have to create on their own. Now, obviously, I won't know how good it is until the episodes actually release, unless there are leaks, but as of right now, that hasn't happened. With that being said, there is something I want to show you that does leave me a little more optimistic. Thanks to a recent interview, we have been given a little more insight into how good the script is. David Peterson, who created some of the different languages on Game of Thrones, like Dothraki and Valyrian, is also coming back to work on House of the Dragon. Well, he sat down for an interview and gave some of his thoughts about the new show, which I thought were equally exciting and interesting. What he said about working on House of the Dragon was, I can tell you that I'm very excited by it. It's a rare thing that I'm actually super impressed by the writing in a script. Usually it all comes together when you see it, but the writing is really good. So I have sky-high hopes for this thing. I really hope it comes off well and fans like it. He also goes on to say, I hope the Season 8 naysayers give it a chance. I totally understand though. I totally get the perspective of somebody who was like, this show or this movie burned me, so I'm done with the franchise forever. I do actually understand that mentality. In this case, I really hope that they give it a shot. Watch the first episode or two with an open mind. That's all I ask. He then notes that a lot of the workers behind the scenes is coming into this show after honing their craft on Game of Thrones, meaning that everyone is starting at a very high level. Basically, they're bringing all of their 8 seasons worth of Game of Thrones experience to the very first season of House of the Dragon. What I found most interesting about what he said was the writing being really good. Now, he obviously works on the show, so he doesn't want to trash it before it's even released, but it does get me even more excited nonetheless. When you take everything else I said in the video into consideration, as well as what David said during his interview, I honestly believe House of the Dragon will be a great show. Now, it may never reach the height that Game of Thrones did, but let's keep it real. Very few shows ever will. If you're still on the fence, then all I can really do is back up what David said. Give it a chance, and you might be surprised by how much you actually like it. Now, if you're still not interested, well, then thanks for watching anyway. Leave me your thoughts down below. How good do you think House of the Dragon will be? As always, I have to thank everyone for stopping by and checking out my video. I hope all of you have a great day. I will see you again very soon. Bye.